of nervousness. I have esteemed panelists. Thank you for doing this. I think when I was reading the topic and I was telling the ETHR team, it said embarking on a digital-centric journey for the times to come. I thought they've encapsulated the next 5 years of technology, happenings in one statement. And probably the next 40 minutes is going to be our attempt to justify that statement. What we get, I think, as this group and cohort is the diverse sectoral experience. We have automobile, we have FS banking, we have commodity, footwear, a lot of diverse experience on the stage today, myself from consulting and from banking. We will try and share our experiences and journeys of technology interfaces and what it could mean in the next coming few years for us. I think anecdotal experiences, stories to share, and of course some pivoted questions which I will be enthralling them with, which they should be able to address for us. We will leave about 10 minutes or so in the end for direct questions and for the panelists to answer, and we'll go with that. So thank you. I think my first pet peeve on technology is that the world is moving to both scale and scale with complexity. Scale because we are so many here in the country, and of course across the globe, talented workforce which has to be engaged, which has to be integrated, which has to be used optimally. Distances are becoming shorter, and technology ends up being a boon and a bane both for us in various facets. I think my first remark and question probably is to you, Manisha. Workspace landscape has sort of evolved digitally, and you yourself have worked in the business side of work, and you've now moved into HR. So you've seen both the ends, and I'm sure the audience will be enthralled to understand, both as a receiver, as a business person, and as a person who probably designs those policies for technology as a backdrop. What has been that journey, and what does it mean for you in the coming years?
Thanks, Shireen, for this question, and really happy to be here today. So good morning to all of you. To understand this question a little better, I just want to take you back in time a little bit. Some of you might relate to this, and some of you might find this very, very alien. When I started my career, we used to have fax machines. There were no emails. I would write a letter for the buyer who was sitting in Europe somewhere. That letter would be taken by the fax operator, sent. It would be received by some central fax machine, given to the receiver. The receiver would work on it, respond, send me a response back. It would come to the central machine and be delivered to me. Average response time, 24 hours. In 30 years, hence, what we've seen is, the speed at which work can be done. And all this has happened in our own career spans. So digital transformation is not something new. It's been happening. It's been happening slowly and steadily, of course. But definitely what pandemic made us do was accelerate this. And the kind of transformation we've seen in the last 2 years has been another level. So Shireen asked me, okay, what does it mean for us as HR and us as business partners, right? For me, I think three main things have cropped up, and which I really think has changed how we work. First and foremost, the speed that we see of decision making, of working, of delivering is at another level now. It also means that we are impatient. We want responses in like 10 seconds. We want work to be done yesterday. So that's something that has been one of the biggest impacts of digital transformation. Second, which is more on the people element. I also feel that this digital transformation has brought a lot of fairness and equality at workplace. No longer a person who's working in the headquarters versus somebody who's working in a SPOC office, or somebody who's coming to work every day in office, or somebody who's working from home because he's a parent, he or she is a parent and need to take care of something at home. We have sort of equalized and normalized everything. There are no, everybody has a fair game. Everybody has a fair chance to be productive, deliver, learn, and grow. And I think that's something which is beautiful, which has come out of this digital journey. And third, which is more on the technology aspect, I think I rapidly see that we are moving very, very swiftly from working hard to working smart. We are now very quick to give our mundane, repetitive tasks to technology. We have figured that things which can be inferred from historical data and trends can be easily done by technology, and we can use those inferences to make smarter decisions. And what it also means for us as human beings is something very beautiful. I think now we have a lot more free time to actually do things which add value to us as individuals, which is being innovative, being somebody who's bringing in ideas, and above all, I think something that only human beings can do, which is spending time in building relationships. So I think these are probably the three things that I think digital transformation has brought for us.
Thank you. I think very, very legit in terms of cost, productivity, time to free up. And I think the world being so dynamic now, right? I mean, one side of the world is probably doing well, which we see in India as metrics. One side of the world is war-torn. One side of the world is seeing economic disparity and dynamism. So I think strategy takes the front seat in terms of being nimble and trying to change. And when you want to do strategy, you want to free up your time away from mundane tasks, and technology helps that. So thank you, Manisha, for those thoughts. Maybe complementing to that, Deepika, you being a veteran in the FS sector and spent so many years there with GS. People, there is scale. There are so many people we hire. There are so many people that work for us. India is a balance of capability and cost. What about being together in office? And if we are not there, then how does technology support us? And if we are not there, let's say we are hybrid and we're working for everywhere, anywhere, and especially compete takes that away from us. So how does one balance that?
Thank you very much. I think a really good question, and I'm so happy to be sharing stage with Manish and Manisha and Shirin. Good morning and welcome to all of you again. I think a very pertinent question. What the pandemic did was that it really cemented the fact that we can survive, even if we are working remotely. And India, I think, really did a great job. There were all the question marks or doubts that people had in their mind on our business continuity and resilience were completely erased. And which is also one of the reasons that, if you've seen the latest reports that are getting published on, the GCC growth in India, the sentiment is extremely positive, and it just got cemented by just the way we did business during the pandemic. Now, having said that, and by the way, that is hugely enabled by technology. The boom of Zoom, Microsoft Teams, earlier we used to have these, video conferencing in office, and there were other small-time apps that you could use to join video conferencing. All of that has gone away. I think the way we are doing business in a work from anywhere mode is just completely, the game has changed, and I really don't need to talk a lot about it because all of us have experienced it. So I think there is that has created, to just reinforce what Manisha said, a level playing field for people. What it also did was, in a way, while we were all working very remotely, it brought the world together. because everybody was experiencing at a human level the same things. What it also did was, and I think for people who work in global heavily matrixed organizations where the corporate offices are in other countries, right? It leveled the playing field in a way that everybody was working remotely. You don't have any corridor conversations. The decision making became more inclusive because everybody's at the same place. Everybody's virtual. So it did have all of those aspects. Now, having said that, and I think this is really well known, and I'll just reiterate the fact that we are a fully in-office firm, and we were in fact one of the early movers in that space across the globe and in India as well. Because we firmly believe, and this is my personal belief, that while we can survive working remotely, whether you thrive or not is the question. So the best innovation, collaboration, really happens when people get together. There is, we can't underestimate the value of community, of when good minds, brilliant minds get together in an organic way, you create synergy. You create something which is not 1 + 1 = 2, but maybe 11,000 or whatever it is. And there are many things that, to the question that you asked, right, what enables that? Things that enable people getting together. What we did, what we did was ensuring that there is a pull factor for people to come back. We had to do that at the very beginning, which means that you have to offer them a safe and secure workplace that fosters collaboration. You have to create space that takes care of people's mental health, well-being, nutrition, mind, body, soul, everything. So, the campus or the workplaces that you create from a lighting, there are multiple factors. I don't know if people are aware of the fact that there are these WELS Gold certifications that are available. And our campus is WELS Gold certified, which are 7 things that you consider, and I named a few. So making sure that you have a conducive workplace. The second thing that you need to focus on what is it that you are driving when people come back? What is it that they will get by coming, that they have to experience that when they come in? So making sure that you have, and you lead by example, right? When we talk about apprenticeship or collaboration, the senior people have to role model and be in the office. And make sure that people are able to get together and create those, or solve those problems that you're wanting to solve, the next gen problems.
So small pivot there, I think. And how has Goldman used technology to create that forum, How have you sort of integrated people? Because I think the pet peeve that everybody wants to understand is, I'm sure Goldman being a matrix, like you said, right? You have those enterprise level tools that are given by the mothership. Then you have those local territory tools that are regional, and you want to sort of match attrition, you want to look at rewards. What is that fine balance of using which one, and from a technology perspective, and what maybe a couple of tools that you can tell us that help integrate people?
Yeah. So look, I think that question is regardless of the hybrid or in office sort of a place.
Yeah.
In my view, broadly, there are 2 areas of an employee's life that that we'd like to consider, right? One is the employee's user experience. So as an employee, in my life cycle from hire to retire, as a user, how is technology giving me a great experience? So when I join the firm, how am I integrated at the firm? Across my life cycle, when I get promoted or I get married, or I want to change careers, like for example, mobility is a huge career lever. It's a huge, usually important lever that we use. How is that enabled? So one of the tools that we have recently, and we are still sort of very proud of and working on that space, is creating an internal talent landscape, marketplace. So how do you make it easy, like just as you have on various other apps externally, right? For people to find a different role at the firm and for the hiring managers to find the right person. So creating an internal talent marketplace. And similarly, like through various transitions that employee faces, through performance reviews, use of, and I think these are some areas that are emerging now. How do you leverage artificial intelligence? How do you look at integrating the various sources of information? Just to give you a small example today, people in your teams, you may get an appreciation for an employee on email. do you remember that when you're writing the person's review at the end of the year? So how do you integrate disparate pieces of information to bring it all together for the employee's experience at the end of the day? That's one aspect. The other aspect, which is also extremely important, is how do you leverage technology for the employees to become more effective and efficient at the work that they do? What kind of problems are you solving and how are you solving those problems? So I think technology is important in both those aspects.
Yeah. No, I think you make a very valid point on self-reliance and especially the other point on life cycle. And you know, for a trade like theirs, where there are capability centers, where you're trying to sort of drive arbitrage and make processes more and more efficient, do more with less, right, from a headcount perspective. And for a place like ours, which is consulting, where every headcount is revenue generating and has billable hours, for us it's the other way around. For us it's about creating technology and automation so that people who are billable, their time gets freed up. Because then they can spend that time on client hours, right? So for example, a tool like for recruitment, Manish, and you know, I'll come to you after this. For a tool like recruitment, you know, we recently went into an automation of our life cycle of recruitment, and we found that we almost saved 30% of time for our people managers and for hiring managers. Now that 30% of time, if converted into billable hours, was at least about 3 to 4% of our revenue that we make every year. And when you add it up and when you aggregate, that is where you see the effect of technology. So I think for an HR person to link it with the P&L, with the business, to the bottom line, you know, gets the proof to the pudding. So I think that's where I think the life cycle efficiency also comes in. Thank you, Deepika. So Manish, pivoting to you and you being the diverse candidate on stage, you know, so in the era of emerging trends, right? Everybody talks new things. Every day there are tools and systems, and I'm sure there are so many people in the room today who want to either sell or imbibe or integrate or work with, you know, on technology. So from your perspective, you've worked across fintech, FS, automobile, in fact, you know, a lot of academics behind you in your pedigree. How do you see this impacting trade and, you know, business and different sectors for that matter?
So, Shirin, thank you so much for asking this question, and good morning to all of you. About 6 minutes to go, and then it will be good afternoon. So, my intent will be to keep it short in the interest of time and also to allow you to ask certain questions. I will start by asking a question back to the audience. We recently had Black Friday sale and big billion-dollar sales. I'm not promoting any specific one, but genuinely asking, raise of hands on how many of us actually bought a product or a service or an experience. Raise of hands. About 70% of the room, close to that. What happens? The experience of the product or the service that you buy is essentially all driven digitally. You are no longer going to a showroom to buy a product. I bought my latest vehicle. Of course, I'm a very proud Mahindra employee, so I bought a Mahindra vehicle. But it was, even if I would have bought any other vehicle, I possibly wouldn't have gone to a showroom. So the age of touch and feel, looking at the seat, looking at the steering wheel, looking at kitna mileage deti hai. You remember that ad? Those days are gone. Don't even think about that. People are reveling in experience. An automobile is software on wheels, correct? Any vehicle. And therefore, it applies similarly to any experience or a product that you are selling or a service that you are selling. Now in the industry that we share, the fintech industry, it is so highly regulated, whether you are selling an insurance or a home loan or a pure play personal loan or an AMC business, it is so highly regulated that the product itself will come under scanner and your way of selling will come under scanner if you do not conform. And that's a challenge for people who are far more innovative and want to do things in a different way. Now, diagonally opposite is an industry where innovativeness is so highly premium and valued. Look at an e-commerce, and Bangalore is the hub of e-commerce. Look at that industry. Look at the product experience or the service experience that all our e-commerce industries are giving to our customers. The employee in this segment has to be upskilled, and it's not only limited to this, but for all of us in our respective industries, it is our responsibility to upskill our employees continuously. Because otherwise, that technology or that tool or that process will soon become dated. Believe me, in our financial services, there is an RBI or a SEBI or an IRDA circular that comes on a daily basis. And the folks sitting here from the financial services will possibly echo with my sentiment that you have to continuously upgrade yourself both on people, processes, systems, compliance mindset, and making sure that your learning interventions are being driven in such a fast manner that your highly diverse and widespread teams are able to catch up to that nuance so very well and in such a short period of time. Which is why driving learning interventions, irrespective of industries, my friend, will become the topmost ask of HR. Whether it is...
Few examples, Manish.
Brilliant. So let's take an example. I am very, as I said, M&M Auto, in my view, is one of the biggest examples, success of where we were and where we have pivoted. So from a Thar to an XUV 700 to a Scorpio and to a Bolero Neo, you name it, all of them have been a runaway hit. And all of them are so digitally advanced. Our mantra is to democratize technology. What you get in a premium SUV of a 70 lakhs, we will democratize it at a level of whatever number that we sell at, which is 20 to 30 lakhs. That's what we are trying to achieve. And if you have to get technology at that level, you have to do two things. One, you have to make sure that your technology arbitrage, your ability to democratize is that much higher. So you need those kind of talent and people in the organization. You need to have those people and those technical tie-ups with global organizations which can get you technology at a price which is affordable to you so that you can create that product and it is affordable to the customer that you sell your product to. Correct? So that's an example. The example for all of us as HR team here is that you have to constantly upskill. It's not only about getting technology from outside. You will get the technology, you may get a share of their learning. They will come and teach you once, twice. But what after that? You have to upskill your teams. You have to upskill a bunch of engineers, your workmen on the shop floor, and the entire value chain to adapt quickly, learn, adapt, and produce so that it is affordable to you, the business value chain doesn't suffer, and it makes sense. So that's an example of how, how things are evolving so fast.
Yeah. No, thank you. I think very valid examples. And his comment on saying Bangalore is tech hub takes me to an anecdote some weeks back. Someone told me in Whitefields there's a chai wala and he says, I accept cryptos also. So, I mean, such is technology. But anyways, coming back to that point, I think very, 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 very important on upskilling, right? We have to create a digital DNA from banking, for example, right? Our forefathers, parents used to work on registers in a bank. Then the computer came and they all started to go for training workshops to learn how to work on a computer. Then the entries happened through that. Then the software trainings happened. Now they work on Finacle. It's a trade-wide known product. But I think, coming to your point, I think it's very, very, the value-added part of it. The right cost point part of it is very important. Because then you transfer the leverage to the customer or to the client. And it all starts from the employee. So for an HR person, the mandate is start from the employee. The cost arbitrage comes in from an upskilling standpoint on learning, automation, digital. Pass it over, create that environment, and then create the value for business. Again, going back.
Yeah, the only other thing which I would like to add, if 70% of this room is buying products or services or experience digitally, you need to make sure that the employees understand this and they're able to quickly integrate what your customers are looking for. What are the new skills coming in the market? What kind of technology is available? And therefore, are my folks ready? Is my manpower available? If not, can I upskill? Can I hire? So all of your hire, train, deploy model comes into play.
Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you. I think...
may I just add one thing
please.
here? I think very, very relevant points that you've made. I will just say that even how people will learn is changing. It's no longer, with the generative AI available. It's not about what you know, but what kind of questions can you ask to really learn quickly. So the way we will learn is also going to change. And technology, I think, is just a part of every aspect of our life. There is just no denying that. Most of you would have read the papers today, right? There was this, the Times Techie page in the Times of India talked about artificial intelligence journey. And globally, there are people who are, categorized into pace setters, which are the companies that are fully ready to take on AI. Then you have the chasers, which are the early movers, like you still have a strategy in place. And then you have people who are like catching up, and then laggards. India is doing better in the first two categories, where we are either pace setting or chasing, much better than the global average. Which also is very visible in just the way our, the UPI payment digitization has happened across the country. I think at workplace also, a few examples from my firm is that technology is no longer restricted to people who are working in the engineering space. The use case for technology. It's no longer just a digitization, automation is not just the responsibility of people working in the engineering spaces, but for every single employee to have that digitization mindset. There are enough and more use cases for people working in traditional banking, research, analytics sort of spaces where by learning simple, like really basic level coding, you can completely change the game in how you sort of are able to publish a research paper and the output that you're able to provide. So it's all pervasive.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think I can't stop myself from commenting on Manish because, yes, coming from a very, very proud retail organization. So, but I have something very interesting to share here on your comment. Of course, I mean, pandemic made us reevaluate our business model. Today, we are a very well-balanced 50-50 online-offline retailer. However, the changes that we had to do to our offline business was that we had to focus a lot more on experience and customer satisfaction. So the customer who comes to our store has to find a reason to come to the store. So while, yes, 50% of our revenue is coming online, but our offline business has also transformed thanks to the digital transformation.
And it is there for people like us who are 1970s, 80s, and 90s born. Think of generation which will now come in. I don't think that the footfall in a store will increase. The footfall on digital platform will increase multiple times.
I don't think age conversations will fly with a group of women here. We need to change topic. Thank you. I think very interesting thoughts. We'll move to the audience quickly for any last questions. I have a few seconds up. Yes, please. Please go ahead.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Zoha from Persistent Systems. I have a question that is open to the dais. If you talk about the digital-centric journey, ideally it can be interpreted in a couple of different ways according to me. So one of the interpretations could be social media and how social media has had an impact and an influence on digitization. So my question is, are you utilizing the newer concepts? Like, of course, employer branding has become something that is being used for, I believe Shireen spoke about, recruitment automation, and Deepika spoke about the talent marketplace. So employer branding is something that has become very important to most organizations to work on. There's also a concept called talent marketing now that is becoming more and more vast. So my question is, are any of your organizations utilizing talent marketing to support any of your practices? I'm sure that this is more of a niche towards recruitment. So if you are utilizing it for your recruitment practices, and any good practices around talent marketing or employer branding that you can share with us.
Maybe I can start off and then my colleagues can add. So look, I think one example is that typically in the past we would go to the IITs and some other campuses to hire and get people in. How do you use technology to democratize recruiting and get access to talent that is out there, hidden somewhere, right? So we run an Experience Hire Campus program, which is available to anybody. Our selection screens remain the same, nothing changes, but anybody in the country can apply to that program within a certain criteria. What we've done also is to make sure, because again, I think Goldman is known for very, very stringent selection screens. How do you equip people to make it through that selection process by giving them inputs. And that program has done wonders for us, and especially in the engineering space, because we've been able to hire more talented women through that program by providing the right input, opening it up for everyone, but keeping the screen the same level of merit applies.
Thank you. I
Absolutely.
think we are up on time. Any last thoughts from the panel? Any concluding comments? That's pretty much it. We have the MC probably trying to moderate us on time.
I think one last comment from my side would be, yes, digital transformation is there. We can't deny it. We have to, of course, face up to the good things and the bad things. However, what is required is not a 0-1 approach, but like a balanced approach. Know that while digital connects will help you with a lot of, say, productivity, efficiency, and all of that, but don't forget that offline and non-digital is also required to really create a more well-balanced and a robust organization.
Wonderful. Thank you. As a closing comment, I think very well-balanced conversation today. Both the touch and the feel part of it and the automation part of it takes away the future. That's one conclusion. I think the other is the value to business and to the client and to the customer that we have to get from creating technology. And of course, how does it become an optimized way of working with business to reduce costs and create an environment which is efficient for doing business. With that, a small closing comment on technology. They say that is generative AI going to take away your job? Probably no. But someone who knows generative AI might just take away your job. So with that, thank you very much. Have a great rest of the day. Enjoy yourself. Thank you.